This is a regular city council meeting of the City of Ocean Shores. It is September 10th, 2024, and the time is 6 p.m. The meeting is being held at the Ocean Shores Convention Center. The meetings are simulcast and archived on KOSW Radio. Meetings are live streamed with closed captioning and may be accessed on the city website under council recordings. The meetings can be viewed on channel 68, Thursdays at 12 p.m. and Sundays at 10 a.m. Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Sires.
Here.
Councilmember Taylor.
Here.
Councilmember Griebel.
Here.
Councilmember Klein.
Here.
Councilmember Scott.
Here.
Councilmember Wills.
Here.
Councilmember Hartman.
Here.
All right. Allison, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Can we have approval of the meeting agenda?
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda and have council item number 9 move to position number 8. This will give our city attorney the ability to be with us during the ethics ordinance agenda item prior to leaving for another meeting obligation.
Second.
All right. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So approved.
I'd
Now
like
we
to
need
go and make a motion to
Yeah.
approve the agenda as amended. Sorry.
That's all right. That's what I was going to say. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Board and committee vacancies. We have one vacancy on the Civil Service Commission, and we don't have any appointments tonight. So first up for reports is going to be Patrick Wedland with the radio board.
Hello. So we submitted our budget for the next 2 years, down a little bit from last. The total 106,577 is the total you should have in front of you. I recently became on the board just a few months ago, and in the last probably meeting, I became the chairman of the board, and so I went ahead and audited the last 2 years just to look to see what I was getting into, and everything looked fine as far as what I can tell. If anything, maybe a little bit of bookkeeping. A couple of things got put in the wrong, expense account, but it was close. Only thing is maybe the vendor would say U.S. Bank instead of the actual vendor who was paid to, so it's kind of more of a, just a little bit of time. But of course, everything was legit and everything was highlighted like it should be. And so using those numbers, went forward with the budget. The big expenditure, of course, is the tower. I wasn't part of that. It does seem expensive to me, but I want to find out. That's my next goal, is to see if there's things that we can do. Maybe we find some grants, see if it's legitimate. Maybe there's a space on there we can repurpose. But still, that's the big expense that we're committed to for the next 3 years, I believe. And so that's the big part of that. So, but everything else is at the very top. You can see we're expecting 25,000 to come in from our underwriting. At a minimum. That's actually very conservative. So I figured that Butch and the team, and by the way, I hope get a little, Butch, like the whole team is our volunteers. So Butch and Trey and every single person here on the radio is not, when they're there doing their thing, they're volunteering their time. So I just want to make sure to put on the record. Thank you, Butch. I don't think anybody said that for a while. So, but outside of that, that's where we're at. I'm new at this, so don't hurt me too bad. Any questions I can try to answer.
All right. We have any questions on the radio board budget? Yeah, Rich.
Welcome. Thank you. Noticing the past couple of years, you guys have raised $17,000, $18,000. It looks like but you're expecting to go to 25. What is it that you're seeing that's going to help?
Looking at the amount coming in, I think I expect them to hit about 25 this year. I think we're about 18, 19. There's been a lot of underwriting as well. I think the next month there'll be some from the new push coming in. So I see us hitting 25 this year. So I'm using that number to be conservative and hopefully have at least that the next 2 years. So we should hit 25 this year.
Any other questions? Yes, Lisa Griebel.
Thank you so much for the work you put into this, and you shared how you looked at the budget and what you did. Could you share the process you used with the radio board to include them in your budget projections and your ask?
So it was Marty and myself and Butch. We, met at the city council to go through the missing items that we needed. And Nicole was great, by the way. Thank you, by the way. She jumped right on that. And so, really, it's going through and, I highlighted probably 8 items that I saw that, what's this, what's that? Like a subscription was $400 for Adobe that they need. Also on that, before I forget, there's a need for web development. So you'll see in consultant, I think we have $1,000. A lot of that's going to go to get some folks to maybe help with the website. But as far as that process, it was, through 3 of us really looking at that and then, getting the answers, and that was really it. It's already there. It's just now.
All right, any other questions on that? I have one actually. What do you guys expect to get through your independent media for your budget?
They've been great, and they certainly provide things on when needed. So I look at independent media as I look at them as a nonprofit advertising agency for the station. Is how I look at it. So, I'm expecting the 25 minimum from them for the next 2 years. So I would like to look into that more though, and make sure we're I guess just I don't know, look into it. It's just it's a nonprofit station, so I come from a background in radio TV, and you can't run the station like a regular station because it's not a profit. So that's where it's tough. It'd be great if we could be self-sufficient. That'd be my goal. To do that with nonprofit, just underwriting only, that's a tall task. But as far as the independent media, they've been great, and they fill in when needed. We had money left over, so but they do a lot of other things. The big New Year's Eve and all the other stuff they do.
Okay.
I don't
Thanks.
know really if I answered that right. So.
Yeah, well, I was just curious
Yeah.
of what you thought you might get for income from them.
Yeah, I'm expecting from them. Besides the underwriting $25,000 that we get, I don't know. Until that happens, I'd like to look at getting some more albums and some things that we look into, maybe doing some record shows and things like that. We don't have a turntable, things like that we can kind of change, and also maybe. The biggest thing they do is really getting the word out. They're not just an advertising agency; they're also, I guess, I don't. It's an interesting situation with them. So, we can't do it without them at the same time because. They're out there doing a lot of things that are outside of the radio, that are intangibles and things that I can't just say they're doing this and that. But you see their. Sometimes they'll have a table and what we're doing at the different events and the shows and stuff too. So,
Okay.
yeah, and they help out a lot with North Beach TV too, especially with Daryl. So,
All right. Thanks, Patrick. Yeah. Go ahead, Rick.
Sarah, you had put together the 2 years worth of revenue, I'll say.
Correct.
Was any of this from independent media, or was this all just what he was speaking of earlier?
So
Their own.
it's twofold. So the radio station receives donations from citizens, tourists, so on and so forth when they go to these different things. So they have a line item for that revenue wise. And then their secondary revenue is the fees. That's what they charge us to come and broadcast and things like that. We also have in our fees is the underwriting money that North Beach Independent Media goes out and gets, and then they cut the city a check, and then that goes in as a revenue. What Patrick is alluding to and didn't quite make it there yet. When you talk about the monetary value of the 25,000, what I have seen, and ever since they came under the city's financials in the way that they have 2-3 years ago, we are not paying for a lot of equipment of any sort. So what North Beach Independent Media has done, and why there's kind of residual leftovers, is they've taken on a lot of that. So they go out, they get all the underwriting, but on top of that, the different radio station personnel, mainly Butch, goes and says, hey, we need new headphones, which are insanely expensive for headphones. They will purchase those on the radio station's behalf. So it's twofold. They are receiving money, but we also aren't putting out equipment costs like we were. So I just want to make that very clear, because it's not, you can't really articulate that in their budget on a monetary basis unless they figure out, and then they go do that request, and then North Beach Independent Media approves that prior to our budget. But there is a lot of equipment and inventory costs that the city is no longer paying and that they are doing on our behalf.
All right. Is that good, Rich?
I appreciate that. It's helpful to me, though, if they were able to, at least on their books, have a line item that showed that independent media pumped in an extra $10,000 a year, or a biennium, whatever it might be, just to get a better understanding. I appreciate your
No,
comment.
yeah, because it just shows up as cash receipt and a date. Because when you look, and that's it.
'Cause I
So
appreciate
would like
your
to have
comment earlier about $85,000 is a lot for lease, and we all
Yeah,
worked really. I mean, it was difficult.
I know. And then we have a tower here that we're leasing. You know, it's like
Right.
on the ground, but not the tower. What can't we do?
Right. So, it would, anything we can do to help lower the expenses to the
Absolutely.
taxpayer for this station would be fantastic.
You bet.
Yes, go ahead, Denise.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to Patrick. I was there when he became president, just at
Yeah, the new guy.
just a month ago. So thank you
Thank
for
you.
for taking this on and being very new on the board too. So thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yes, Lisa Griebel.
And just because of the nature of our city, we have a constant influx of new people to our community, people that become newly involved in city government and new to our budgeting process. Could you just name 3 things our radio station does to serve our community and why it's so important to have this radio station?
Absolutely. I mean, when I put my application in, I put, I want to be a steward, a good steward for the station. It's to me, it is the first and foremost, if something really bad happens, it's not just tsunami, but you lose power, you lose internet. Who knows? Something happens. Everybody's gonna be running up to the cars. Cell phones aren't working. They're gonna run out the car and turn the radio on and see what's going on. So that's first and foremost is to help the community. Second is the local events. You kind of start listening to it. You start listening to when I first got here. Of course, started listening to the station, and it's hard to keep a lot of readers because the format changes. They listen to something, then 2 hours later, something else comes up that just doesn't agree. But they've gotten. DJs has just kind of gotten a little better at it, but not just that. It's you start getting like the personalities and stuff too, but you know what's going on in town. You hear it, you tune in within an hour, you're going to hear what's going on. You're going to hear about the weather, you're going to hear about hopefully the tides. And the third thing, it's a great outlet for all these folks. These are people that you're sitting around, and sometimes it gives you something to do and to be part of the community as well in a big way. It's not just a few people. There's you go to the meetings, there's few dozen people helping out the station, so it's a great outlet for everybody too.
All right, thanks. Any other questions or comments? All right, thanks, Patrick.
Great, thank you.
So next up, we have Grays Harbor Special Operations Rescue Team presentation, and that's going to be presented by Montesano Fire Chief Dave Buzzy. Boozy. Booze. Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
I got a name that's mispronounced all the time too. So
Green, we're ready to go. Well, thanks for having me. So I've been the fire chief of Montesano since January 1st of 2023. And for those that don't know, the whole Grace Harbor County on the fire side is relatively a new group of folks. There was a massive exodus of fire chiefs and police chiefs, and we're kind of all new. And so I think that there was value to that with folks were able to be a little more collaborative. People weren't staying in their silos. It was new folks with new energy, and there was the Grace Harbor Fire Chiefs meeting back in March of 23 or so. And there was a question about what are we doing for all this special operations items. I sat back. I was new to I grew up out the Wishkah, graduated from Wishkah High School, went to Grace Harbor College, and then I went to Seattle Fire. I was there for 30 years. Retired from there, started the Monty job, kind of did both jobs at the same time. So with Seattle Fire, I was on a ladder company. I was on downtown engine company number 5. That is also the part of the Marine team, tunnel rescue team, surface water tenders, part of the dive program. So a lot of those components. So I'm sitting at this Grace Harbor Fire Chiefs meeting, and there was this conversation, and so they asked me, because of my history, if I would help run this, and initially I was a hard no, simply because I know what it takes to be proficient with this set of skills. It's a perishable set of skills. It takes a long time to develop them, and it takes a long time, or it takes a lot of effort to maintain them to a very proficient level. So I was a hard no. We went 2 months, and I came out to a couple of different of the agencies, came out to Ocean Shores with Chief Ritter to do some ladder rescue training. Because of my skill sets on the ladder truck, brought my company from Seattle Fire. We came down and put on, was it a full day? With multiple agencies came, and we worked really hard that day and had a great time. And that was that watershed moment that changed everything about what I thought I knew. And it showed me that in the entire Grace Harbor area, that the firefighters here are those, we call them compassionate Vikings. So you want people who go out and do hard work and do it well, but with the empathy and compassion for the patients and for the people that they're serving. And so that totally changed my hard no to a we'll see. So this is over a year in the planning. So it's Grace Harbor Special Operations Rescue Team. We will be dovetailing in with Thurston County Special Operations Rescue Team, because that's who provides our services right now. So on the screen there is the list of participating agencies: Aberdeen Fire, East Grace Harbor, Hoquiam, Monty, Ocean Shores, South Beach. Grace Harbor County Emergency Management is involved because they kind of control a lot of the communication at the region level, so the 5 counties. And then Grace Harbor County Sheriff's Office, because ultimately Grace Harbor County Sheriff has the statutory authority for anything on the water. And we'll kind of get to that piece in a little bit. And then non-participating agencies will be anybody else who isn't those. So all of your fire districts, all of your police departments, all of that. How do SORT responses work now in Grace Harbor County? Grace Harbor responders, whether they're a volunteer in Hump Tulips or they're an officer in Ocean Shores, they are trained to awareness level as a minimum, and this is, I'll cover as to awareness level as to what on the next slide. And then if we have an event where we need that special operations or that technical expertise, we call our harbor dispatch to get Thurston County Special Operations. And from here on, we'll just call them T-SORT. So they'll call T-SORT. So how is special ops different than regular fire department duties? So we're mandated, right, to provide fire protection. But most agencies have chosen to take over that EMS. That's a county requirement through the trauma care council at the the state. That's who drives that piece. So now you're to the point where you are on an EMS call, or there's a patient, and that patient has to go from wherever they are to the hospital. So typically the fire department loads them, whether they're sitting on the toilet or they're in bed or wherever. 2 people walk in, pick them up, put them on the stretcher, put them in the ambulance, drive them to the hospital. Pretty easy peasy. That takes care of 99.9% of our events, right? So when you have that 0.01% event where the car is down the embankment, the patient is in I just had one up in Satsip where a patient was in a cistern inside of their home. That was interesting. So how does that patient get from that now complex situation to the stretcher, to the ambulance, to the hospital? Well, that's where we are here now. This is what that special rescue piece is. Go ahead and next slide. So here we are, and these are the disciplines that we're talking about. So there's rope rescue, and rope rescue is broken down into two sub-disciplines. Low angle rescue, meaning that the weight of the event is on the rescuer's feet, and that they're being assisted with a rope. High angle means that the rope is bearing the load, so the patient and the rescuer are suspended by a load. Typically, that's like a vertical operation. If you've ever seen somebody raised or lowered via a crane or a rope system where they're dangling, that's that high angle piece. Confined space, structural collapse, trench rescue, surface water, and swift water. So, and then each one of those disciplines is broken down into the three levels. It's awareness level, meaning you know what it is, and and you've declared it. So, say there's an embankment, a car down an embankment, and you won't be able just to carry the patient up. You would have to recognize that that's a unique situation, and then know how to call for additional help. So that's awareness level. It's 8 hours. It's every responder in the county has to have that. We've leaned into the sheriff. I've had conversations with him that we get the deputies because they're usually first on scene everywhere in the county because they're literally everywhere. And sometimes they can get impatient while we're getting there, right? And that's probably not the best space for them to be in. Operations level is 40 hours of training in addition to the 8 hours of awareness. And then technician level is at least 40 hours above the operations and the awareness training. So in this space in Ocean Shores, there's probably not a lot of what I would call traditional high angle. You don't have a lot of cliffs. There is embankments. I mean, any of the built-up road systems, people can tumble down that and drive off of that. Probably the dirty little secret here is that, and these are numbers that have been provided, you guys have over 50 permit required confined spaces within your public works arena. So any vault, any oil water separator that's large enough for someone to enter into and create and work in that space, right? They're technically supposed to have a permit and supposed to technically have a backup team equipped to that same level. So if we're sitting here thinking this is some exotic thing that only happens 0.01%, well, our scope and scale is much more real than that because your public works department is entering into those spaces probably daily. Next slide. So these are just examples. None of these are actual Grace Harbor incidents. Maybe when we're not recorded, I could tell you why I don't allow phones on any of our rescues that I go run in the East County. So it's pretty simple. I guess, can I get up while I talk? I feel like, was it Bob Barker? Is he the one that had the big mic? So I don't know who can see this. We'll do it out here. So essentially the whole rope system is essentially from these carabiners right here, upstream and then downstream. So what we're doing here is, this is called a haul field, and this will be the exact same haul field. This will be the exact same thing whether this is low angle, this is high angle, this is any of these rescue disciplines we talked about will be from that carabiner backwards. It's all the same. This orientation from this is an interwoven bowline. Anything from that will be the exact same for all the other rope, any of the 7 or the 6 disciplines that we talked about. Okay, next slide. All right. So like I just said, all 7 disciplines use these rope systems. Even the water-based ones do, especially the Swiftwater side, because you have to have tethers and tag lines. But low angle is that foundational piece. And so that's what we're here to talk about today is this low angle operations level. So right now, T-Sort, when we've activated T-Sort, and I think it's been 8 times in the last 2 years, well now 9, because I just activated them about 2 weeks ago. So let me find my numbers. 75% of those were some sort of over an embankment. So those were the low angle rope operations that occurred. So the challenge is when we call T-Sort, there's nobody in Thurston County to help Thurston County residents because they're here. Well, if we can take care of 75% of the need, then they get to stay back in Thurston County 75%. So that's their motivation for bringing us on board and getting us trained, really, because their turnout time is 2 hours for them to assemble in Thurston County, and then it's about a 2-hour deployment here wherever they are. There was an event up at the Wainuchi Dam, and that was a 4-hour turnaround time. That patient survived, but the challenge is when we're this far west, our currency is time, right? Our currency is always time. We can get the resources, but it's going to take a long time, right? So if we can lean into this, and we know that, and we can lean in and get these baseline resources forward. So what I like to say is stable to stable. So we want to stabilize the patient on a stable platform. So if that patient is in risk of falling, we get our rescuers down there, get them stabilized, and then we get them medically stabilized. So stabilize the patient in a stable platform. So this piece here, this rope ops is just the very first baby step. This is, I joke about it that I've been trying to birth this baby for over 1.5 years now, trying to get this thing down the road. But if we can get this baby to crawl, and this is crawl, like we aren't even to walk yet, but this takes care of 75% of our needs, and it takes care of 100% of all of our future disciplines as we expand. Next slide. So why should we even have a sort? Well, these incidents are already happening. So kind of the challenge is that we've activated T-Sort now 9 times. We have these events all the time. East Grace Harbor Fire and Rescue. So at least on the east side, each agency is only capable of handling one simple emergency by themselves. And then if it's complex or a CPR or something that's not just a simple medical emergency, response or aid response, we have to call for mutual aid. That's just where we are. So I go to a lot of the other agencies' responses as their safety officer to help out with their incident commander. So what we're seeing is a lot of folks are doing these tasks without the equipment, the training, or the knowledge to complete these successfully. They're getting it done, but it's not being done correctly. And kind of when we move down to these next steps, and this is that risk and liability reduction component. So an example would be if myself and Chief Ritter went to a car accident and you had driven over the embankment, and we needed to get you up this embankment, and we go down and we do it without tethering you with all that. So on any occurrence, there's going to be 1, 2, 10 violations of an LNI safety violation. Well, those, as you can see, are about 5,000. And this is, I called an LNI investigator. They're $1,000 or $5,000 per violation, right? And so each incident you go to, there's probably going to be between 5 to 20 violations because there's going to be a bunch of responders there all doing the exact same violation, which are new violations. And then if it's done willfully, that is multiplied by a factor of 10. So a real life example of that is East Grace Harbor, and I keep using them, but East Grace Harbor Fire and Rescue had an incident where they had a pretty simple rescue. There was a complaint. They were fined. They were fined $365,000. It was mitigated down to $160,000, but that was still $160,000 out of their budget that was unbudgeted for, and it was payable before the next budget cycle. So now that's $160,000. They don't get to do whatever they were going to do with it originally. So there's a risk. And then on the firefighter safety side, the average is, and this is hard for people to believe, but any firefighter injury, whether it's a cut finger, sprained ankle, or a herniated disc, it's about $72,000 because we have to do the medical coverage, pay that firefighter's wages, and then the backfill. So when another firefighter has to fill in for that firefighter, that you're covering those wages as well. So the firefighter safety component is huge just on a budgetary piece, much less it's, people are the most valuable resource and all that piece of it, where we got our people at work instead of off work. So it's reasonable patient care. We had an event where we were just, and I call it handjacking, because we would do a heave set on this gentleman that went over an embankment, and we lifted him up and set him down. He had a flail chest, so he had 3 or more ribs broken in 2 or more places. Pretty painful. And every time we set him down gently, but it was still on blackberry briars, we were exacerbating his pain threshold, right? So there's that's patient care piece of it. So now the real, other than the L&I and the other potential stuff, here's our real costs. I should have made my font a little bigger on the, so the department cost per individual is $3,800, and that's for the equipment, because that equipment is fit to that rescuer. And then there's a class, and is that 800 on the T-sort training, the initial training for T-sort? I can't read that far. Okay. So $800, and that's a cotton. T-sort is not making, they're not like throwing big parties with that money we're giving them. They're barely, because we have to rent their tower. There's equipment. There's lots of stuff, instructors, insurance, things like that for that training site. And this is just for the rope ops component. We are hoping to also do a structural collapse component, and that will be an additional charge. So I'm giving these numbers, but I want to be transparent that this is like the real numbers, but there's more to them, and we would love to onboard those as quickly as we can, because for every day that we are not able to provide this service is another day that we're not able to provide this service. So a lot of agencies that have lost firefighters to the I-5 corridor, it necessarily isn't always about money. It is about opportunity. And during those exit interviews, at least with Aberdeen and Hoquiam, because I talked to Chief Golding, Chief Miller, when folks are leaving those agencies, why are they leaving? And it's not the run volume, it's not the money, it's the lack of opportunity. And man to man, everybody said that since they don't have these abilities to do these type of activities, to do the rescue stuff, to grow their individual skill sets, to really challenge themselves, right? Because we talked about compassionate Vikings, and that's who we have. These are hard-charging people. A lot of them are former military, a lot of college athletes. It's people who want to move forward and want to do stuff and do good stuff. It's a great mission. It's good folks doing good work. And so we're losing those same folks because they just don't have this opportunity. So annual fees, $3,500. That's probably going to slide up to 4,000 participating agencies. And this might take a bit to digest. So $3,500 to $4,000 in annual fee to participate in a participating agency is someone who has skin in the game. And I limited this to paid agencies only. So career agencies are the ones that I chose to be, because that's a different accountability system than a volunteer organization. Volunteers are fantastic. We have some wonderfully talented folks out in the county, but it's very hard to say, hey, every quarter I need you to come do this training, because it's necessary for team continuity. So with that $4,000, you get hazard ID. So SORT would come out, see all your confined spaces, come up with a plan for those, and any of the other hazard IDs. So the reason that the participating agencies are paying a little bit more is you get that service, and you're actually getting that person that has those skill sets in your agency. So that you now have those in some agencies. I'm looking at providing 2 folks. Some people are providing 4. Some are providing 3. So you now get those people with those skills, and the non-participating agencies are going to pay $2,000. And that would be a lot of like your fire districts and things like that. So everybody's like, well, why would I not just do the non-participating? I can save $2,000 and not have to buy any equipment. So the actuality is, if you are a non-participating partner, or if you choose to do neither of those 2, then you get billed that full freight for that that response, and it's about $8,000 to assemble and arrive on scene with your medic unit, your engine companies, your skill sets. So there's a cost for those folks who, if anybody chooses to just completely opt out, there'll be a cost through TSORT for that. Next slide. So yeah, the deliverables are recruitment, retention. That's how we keep good firefighters here in this county and keep them moving forward and helping our citizens. Safety for the firefighters, much quicker response times, right? We can finally stop using a currency of time. That's what our citizens have always sacrificed, is that time. My folks live out the Wishkah. They chose to live out there, right, to be remote and isolated and all that stuff. And so when my mom or dad has a heart attack, that they've chosen that's now 30 minutes for a medic unit to give life-altering drugs, right? So if we can reduce that on the rescue side, this is a great way to do that. It lessens our liability financially and politically, because I think a lot of folks, when we went out and asked some of our industry partners if they would like to partner with us on this, a lot of them said, wait, we aren't already doing this? And it's, no, we're not. So there's an expectation by a lot of our citizens and a lot of our visitors that we already provide this service. And then it just, like I said, it helps meet citizens' expectations. They really do think we're doing it, and we might be doing it, but we're not doing it correctly and we're not doing it well. So, next slide. So exploring grant funding. Chief Golding from City of Aberdeen Fire, he's been working with, we have a lot of very benevolent organizations in the county. He's working with them. When I gave you all of those costs and stuff, it is unlikely that any of the participating agencies will actually bear that cost. There's been a lot of interest in both some of the benevolent folks, but as far as our industrial partners as well. Anytime someone cleans out a cement truck, that's a permit required confined space. Anytime someone cleans out a large-scale fuel tank on the Port Dock Road, that's confined space entry, right? So there's all these spaces in the industry that they need this service too. So we're also working on ILAs and MOUs through TSORT, and yeah. So there is, on the request for funding side, there is each agency is going to go ahead and bear that cost of overtime. So that is also, just to be transparent, there is going to be a little bit of a cost there, but that will be manageable, and that is already forecasted with what we expect on training. Next slide. Anyway, that's my contact info. Yeah.
So just in case you guys are curious as a council and the public, the assumption to the general public is you call 911, a fire truck, a ladder truck shows up, and we handle the call. But at the end of the day, when it comes to these disciplines, high angle, low angle, confined space, and surface water rescue, we can't do it. We do the best we can with what we have, but it's not legal and it's not safe. We've had to pull people off of roofs with our ladder truck, one guy in cardiac arrest. It took some ropes and stuff. So we have, our rope is dated. Our systems aren't current or they're not existent. And I think the assumption is, again, people call 911 and we come and we can do these skill sets. In my mind as the chief and, talking with Mandela and the chiefs of the county, we're kind of tired of inviting our visitors to Grays Harbor County and our cities, and then we don't have the ability to properly perform any kind of rescue. And I think this is a really good collaboration. I think the funding is possibly there. We've worked really hard to get to this point, and really the biggest discipline I have specifically for our city is the confined spaces. And we have had a cardiac patient that had to climb out of the vault himself, and I don't like putting anybody under physical stress while they're having a cardiac event, but we need to have the proper equipment. We have the people that are interested, and we are we're looking at funding and different funding mechanisms, because at the end of the day, it comes down to money and liability. But I feel like with the collaboration with the local departments in the harbor, I think we've made a great headway in getting the industries on the harbor involved into some funding and some really great groups out there, Greater Grays Harbor. I could go on and on. I know we're talking to the tribe, but I think it's going to take collaboration between all the cities to just realize, like Chief Boo says, time is our enemy out here. We're on an island. The embankment calls, we get them with cars on the highway over the embankment in the big ditches and things like that. So I think it's something that I'm passionate about. I know all the other chiefs are pretty excited about it. So any questions? I really appreciate Chief Booz for coming out and his experience bringing his ladder company from Seattle Fire. He didn't charge us. It was his last day of his retirement, and he brought his entire ladder company out. These guys were like 6'4". They showed us tricks of the trade that are going to benefit our public, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate having a guy like him in our county. So, any questions?
Go ahead, Rich.
When you're looking at our department, how many people do you think you would suggest be involved in this?
I have 4 right now. One gentleman we just hired from Arizona has experience. I know Jeremy Towery's another one who's experienced, but they're all going to go through the same basic training through a gentleman, Andy Spire, who worked with Mandela FDNY. He's now one of the chiefs at McLean, because we all want to start with the same foundation. So to answer your question, Rich, I have 4. And then we want to get to a train-the-trainer kind of type deal where these 4 can come into our whole department and get everybody kind of up to speed at a higher awareness level. And then down the road, this will take years, but, hopefully, in 5-10 years, we can get to some tech level stuff.
Any other questions? Yes, Richard.
Just make a quick comment. Thank you for the presentation. I found it informative and surprising. Who knew $50,000 because you didn't use the right piece of equipment? And on the surface, it sounds expensive, unless it's my wife down there. Now it's no longer expensive. Thank you.
Right. Denise.
Yes. Since you're looking at funding now, do you have a possible anticipated start date for any of this?
Yeah. So because this is a foundational component and it's the baseline for everything, we pushed forward. We start training October 10th through the 13th. We've already selected the 16 folks in the county, and we're ordering them gear. The way T-Sort works is it's a cash system, so the individual members will have their personal equipment that fits them, like a harness is specific to you, a helmet is specific, gloves, things like that. And then there's cash equipment, carabiners, gang of fours, ropes, anchors, blah, 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 all the nerd, super propeller head stuff. So there is that cost that lives with those folks, but we're looking at going, so we really won't be able to go live on the low angle, on the rope ops low angle. We're looking January 1, and then we're looking at doing, and we're pushing this forward because we have to lean forward because there is such a lead time on getting the folks, getting ILAs, getting MOUs. I'm just out here talking to different councils and commissions because this is budget time, and we're leaning into that 2025 window of what we need to do to make this work. And kind of the fortunate or unfortunate thing is we're spreading the pain across all the agencies across the county, at least the participating agencies. But we all need each other. So there's 16 in this class, and before we start even just a rope operation, so your car goes over the embankment, you can't get out, we've got to carry you out. We have to have 6 of those folks on scene before we can even start that operation. So it matters that everybody kind of shares their load. It just does. So Hoquiam will probably be coming out here very quickly. Hoquiam is, in totality, will be about 4 folks. Aberdeen's looking at pushing 5. And ultimately, Aberdeen, because they have a 24-hour battalion chief, they probably will be. So like I said, I'm gestating this baby. We're going to birth the baby, and I'm going to teach the baby to walk, but crawl. But as soon as it walks, I'm passing this baby off. I have other projects in the county that I'm really working on getting going, some other stuff too. So this was to do it. So I'm a guy, I can't sit there and watch something incorrect, but I'm not a micromanager. So let's do it right. Let's make sure we collaborate. Let's make sure everybody's questions get answered. And let's make sure we're doing it the right thing, the right way the first time, because it's nobody's benefit for tax dollars or time if we're going to have to redo it again. So that's why I'm out talking to all the councils and commissions and answering questions. So it's a single point. So if it screws up, there's only like 3 of us in the whole county, so you can look in the phone book. And it's either me, my dad, or my brother. So you'll find us.
All right, thank you. All right, was just discussing, we got a tight time frame for our lawyer for item number 8 here, but we're moving on to public communication to council, and it's intended for communication to the city council regarding general council business or policy not on tonight's agenda. Address comments or questions to the city council body, not an individual member or city staff. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. We request that your comments be nice and respectful. This is not a question and answer time, and the council cannot engage in conversation with the public. No person may use public comment for purpose of campaigning or advertising. The city council will begin the time once the citizen has started their public comment. At 2 minutes, you will see a green light followed by a yellow light indicating 30 seconds remain in the public comment period. The red light will notify the reader that the public comment time has ended. Order of the public comments will be first, individuals attending in person. Second, individuals attending remotely. General public comment, whether in person or remotely, will continue in the usual position on the agenda. So who's up first?
All right, we have 4 comments this evening. The first, Shannon Rubin, Standards and Tourism.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that being gone since April, I noticed a significant improvement aesthetically in Ocean Shores when I came back this last week. It's the first year in 8 that I've been general manager that I don't have a complaint about the median by the Shiloh. In fact, when I was going to IGA, I saw a kid posing by the pirate and then one by the Bigfoot, and it was nice to see parents taking pictures of them. We've had our crab several years, and it brings continued smiles, so I encourage you to install as much art around the town as you can. I want to thank the city for clearing the fire break today. I am concerned, however, about the alarming trend in negative reviews across hospitality establishments. All summer long, I've seen deplorable reviews, some that I didn't think were even possible. So yesterday, I checked in to some of the hotels. I booked 5 reservations and spent $700 to see it for myself. What I could tell you is I brought other people along with me because my standards are pretty high and I wanted to make sure I wasn't just being a little extra. The things I saw are absolutely horrific. I saw multiple beds, couch sofa beds, where you pull them out and there's crumbs and food and they're stained and the mattresses are disgusting. I saw actual beds that you sleep in where it looked like someone had actually slept in the bed. So looking like a made bed was slept in, I pulled back the sheets and there was hairs and crumbs and things like that. That brought me to the lower level of the mattress where one of them looked like a crime scene. And I'm not exaggerating. I sent the picture to a hotel friend and they were like, is that a hotel room or is that a crime scene? Because the staining was so bad. Ocean Shores cannot have George fill this convention center or hold it to standards if this is what we are going to put out there. The city council, the mayor, and the hotels cannot expect him to have conventions here of any quality if that's what hotels are going to put out there. Now, many of you are probably wondering why they're doing this. And I can't answer that question for you because it's that bad. I know that we have a hotel coalition, and I know that every month hotels are invited to participate in it. But I know that myself and one other hotel are the only ones that ever do. I can't speak to why hotel managers allow that or why hotel operators allow that. There is zero reason that you can't be clean. And I categorically reject the fact that COVID and lack of staffing are the causes. I have the same issues. My hotel went through COVID and I have a lack of staffing, yet we're clean and friendly. And I'm not going to sit up here on a high horse and say that we're perfect, because I picked apart all of my hotel rooms too, and I told my staff that what I saw was not acceptable. And if guests think that we're clean, that is amazing. And I'm glad that they think we're clean.
That's time.
I hope you guys address this. It is a big problem.
All right, thank you.
Bonnie Thompson, painting curbs for safety.
I actually, my sister and I stayed at a local hotel and got bed bugs. So I guess that's not my subject, but yeah, bed bugs, Ocean Shores. I've just recently come into the city, moving down here, and I driving around at night. It's really hard to see where you're going. I wish that curbing was more visible, painted yellow, something like that, because it's really hard to see where you're going. I wish all the curbs were yellow. And thank you.
All right, thank you.
I'm not sure I can read the first name on this. Is it, and apologies, is it Mark A. Jester? Or is that Mary Kay, perhaps? Yep, Mary Kay. The September bleeds into the
That's my sister right there. 3 sisters living within a mile of each other down on the other end. And I agree, we're old, we have old eyes, and we just like a little bit more like painted, when you do a U-turn or around the roundabout, a little bit more lighting or painted curbs would really help. The other thing that we experienced was the new crosswalks are like the little blinky lights, except for one, and it's there's one on the south side of the library. These are the golf course crosswalks, and the other one is not. And we almost ran into a golf cart because there was no blinky light. So just want to let you know, we really appreciate the crosswalks that let us know that there are people who want to cross, and if that other one would feel a lot safer on the road. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And lastly, David Lynn, 1750-100, Part 2.
Good evening, council members. I'm David Lynn, a 15-year resident of Ocean Shores. Last month, I spoke to you about certain problems with the lack of adherence to the requirements of Section 17.50.100 of the City Code regarding lot clearing. I pointed out that the most basic and well-defined requirements were being ignored, specifically the landscaping plan as defined Section C2. It states, at the time of clearing grading permit application, a plan for landscaping shall be submitted to the city that clearly indicates the applicant's plan for meeting the landscaping and erosion prevention requirements of the section. Part A, the plan shall be to scale. Part B, the plan shall indicate the location of all structures, outbuildings, decks, gazebos, driveways, etc., and the location of all existing significant trees. None of this is being done. You are all well aware that all that is needed to get a clearing permit is some crudely drawn sketch with the words, quote, clear all brush and trees, end quote. Tonight, I would like to cover a few more parts of the section of the code. Section B, landscaping of all residential zones. The plan shall provide assurance that the following requirements are met. 1, the portion of the property not occupied by structures shall be left in its natural state or shall be aesthetically treated with plants, shrubs, trees, or other forms of landscaping materials. Aesthetically means in a way that gives pleasure through beauty. Certainly, lots that are completely covered with impervious materials like red rock or others cannot give pleasure through beauty. It is the antithesis of such. Yet slash, burn, and pave have become the standard procedure for lot development. Ugliness has become the norm by design. Part 4, during the lot clearing and dwelling construction phase of the development, the plan shall include management measures to prevent erosion. On all all areas of the site where soil is exposed, treat with appropriate temporary measures based on season and site conditions. Number 5, the retention of vegetation that promotes or preserves continuous overstory canopies, wildlife corridors, and native vegetation adjacent to critical area buffers is especially encouraged. Wildlife corridors and overstory canopies and understory are critically important throughout the city in preserving the very nature of Ocean Shores. We are quickly losing the soul of our community. John Sawhill, former president, CEO of the Nature Conservancy, wrote, "In the end, our society will be defined not by what we create, but by what we refuse to destroy." Thank you for your time.
All right, thanks.
I'd like to go ahead and, I guess, amend my motion. Originally, we have our city attorney until 7:10, and so I'd like to move item number from 9, it went to 8, and then from 8 to now, if that is okay.
Second.
All right, we got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll address that and go to staff reports after.
Sarah, do you need another motion to amend? Okay, thank you.
All right, so we have the ordinance of the City Council of the City of Ocean Shores relating to the City Council Code of Ethics, adopting OSMC Section 212.050, describing the Code of Ethics, purpose, adopting OSMC Section 2.12.055, setting forth definitions, and I'm going to stop there because we are short on time. So this is going to be presented by Denise and Allison.
Okay, council, you've all had a chance to read this, and since we are short on time, there are some things that I want to bring up. First is the attorney met with the entire ad hoc committee to go through the document when we had our draft, and everything that is in here has been approved by the attorney. We are all within legal rights to have everything in here we do. And so she made some recommendations. We made those changes. A couple things that we did catch that I want to bring to your attention is on page on page 9, if you look at section C, number 4, that needs to be removed. Because originally we had that the city attorney would be reviewing all ethics complaints, but once we met with her and we made changes, that was just something that should have been removed that we didn't get out of there. And then there is a part that we had and we discussed, and we didn't get it on this final copy that I want to add in, and I'll read that in just a second. But the other piece is on page 6. There was a typo on number 12, improper interference with the city administration. Council member shall, it says shall interfere, it should say shall not interfere with the duties of the city administrator. So Scott, we'll let you do your job. So, but the one piece that we did want to add, we had some language, and Kendra made some recommendations to us. So it is at the end, and I apologize, I did not get this typed up and out to everybody. But it would be 2.12.075. The Ethics Committee may find that a complaint brought pursuant to this ethics code is frivolous and without merit. Upon such a finding, the person making the complaint may be liable to the city for the cost of any review, if applicable. So the one thing when Lisa put together the ad hoc committee is for us to be able, we had our guidelines and our ethics as one document, and to be able to separate those two. And so we wanted to start with the ethics piece because we wanted to be very clear and transparent with what we were doing. the members of this committee, Denise, myself, Sarah, Jane, Rick, and Joe, it was a great group to work with. And so we looked at, as you can see, many other cities to see what they were doing. We looked at the RCWs, we looked at the law, we got recommendations from our attorney and put together this. This is a committee that will be made up through a randomizer of 2 community members and 1 council member. That each time there is a complaint filed, that a randomizer will be used to select 2 community members and 1 council person who will then take the complaint, review it, investigate, and then come back and recommend to council. At this point, Denise, anything you want to add?
Denise, did you have some comments?
No, I just wanted to add and to thank Lisa for the committee. It was really critical to have citizens on this committee so we could get their perception of where the council had not been transparent before, where the council might have shown some prejudice before, and that was really the goal in making this transparent, making it useful to everyone, and to make it look fair. And that was really the goal, and our citizens really helped with that. As well as I do have to add that they did a lot of research and gave really thoughtful and analytical comments. Sarah gave us a ridiculously large packet of sources to look at, and we all did. And it was really the definition of a working committee.
All right, thanks. If that's it, we have any public comment? Yes.
Good evening, Council Mayor. Yes, first I want to thank Lisa also. This ad hoc committee was, it was wonderful to collaborate with everybody, the ideas, the debates, and being able to come to solutions together. And just thank you for the ability to collaborate and participate in this. And just touching on 2 things, I'll try and make it quick, that Allison brought up. One thing was there was a lot of always grumbling about the council policing themselves. So that was one thing we wanted to address, but we wanted to address it and make sure it was fair and impartial on all parts. And so that's why we had chosen that community members and a council member would be on that committee. The other one that Allison mentioned about adding back on was something that I wanted on there, because one thing I believe, I want my council to be able to debate things, express their opinions, express their ideas without apprehension of having an ethics complaint filed because of what they're trying to, for speaking their thoughts and their ideas on certain subjects. And so that's why 2.12.075 was important for me to put back in there, to protect council also from frivolous and unmerited complaints. But once again, this ad hoc committee, we did our best. We wanted to make sure that we were impartial and fair to everyone and on all aspects and from all views from the citizens and the council. So thank you again for the opportunity.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? Yes.
Good evening, everybody. I also want to commend everyone who was involved in this big effort and process. It's been a long time coming, and I bet you're all kind of breathing a sigh of relief and very happy that it's completed. And it really, I think it'll be a really great asset for our community. And it took a lot of persistence, I think. And the other reason I came tonight was because of the knot in number 12. So thank you so much.
All right, thanks. Any other comments? All right, we'll go to council. Yes, Lisa.
Well, thank you for the thanks. I don't deserve that, though. This committee worked really, really hard on this. I know we had some reservations going into this, but I'm impressed with the draft that was put before us. I don't know that we're under any pressure to approve this tonight and take it to a second reading so we can see that paragraph in writing. But I just really want to thank the community members and the ad hoc committee who participated. I know this was a lot of work, and we really do very much appreciate it. And hopefully it will be a smooth transition, and we won't even have to deal with this because there won't be any complaints. So thank you.
All right. Any other comments?
There is something I want to add in. One of the things, and I didn't mention this, and the way that community members will be selected is there will be an application process, just like for any other committee that you will apply, and then the mayor pro tem will go through and make a selection to bring to council. We hope to have a pool of, was it 15? 12, sorry, 12 to draw from, and with the randomizer. And so that will give a good group and a good pool to be able to pull from.
Right. Denise.
Yeah, and just to add on to what Allison said, that when this is approved, if it is approved, which we hope, we will then put together a guideline and handbook on the process. Because if you read it, you can see that there's timelines that we need to make sure, and that was another thing that we really wanted to ensure in these guidelines, in this ordinance, no longer guidelines. And by the way, it is an ordinance, so it can be enforceable. The guidelines were not. But we will be putting together a guide for the people who apply to the pool and have training so they understand exactly what is in this document.
All right. Thank you. I don't know which. Okay, Rich, go ahead. You beat him.
Oh, sorry. So, with you emphasizing the ordinance portion, and unfortunately, I have been involved in investigations in the past that, because of multiple reasons, timing was not as expedient as we would want to. When you look at some of the dates, city clerks, I worry about I worry about how quickly some of this stuff has to be addressed. Not because of laziness, but because of the reality of our lives.
So I picked most of them because I felt like it could flow very easily based on what was being requested. It was a good time because we're also training. I won't be the only one. I do have a designee, but the timelines I think are the most important because what this document did for me, because whatever you guys do is on you. But what it did for me is it gave a strict policy to go by, and we know that this state this has to go and this state that has to go. It's easy to do if you have something to follow. We had nothing to follow before, which I think just intensified the emotions of everything going on. So I was a proponent in the dates and the turnaround and what needed to be done, and I do think between myself and whomever will be the designee, easy to do, and it'll just level up that transparency and trust in the government.
Right. Richard.
So first, as I read through this, it's obvious how hard this committee worked. So I want to thank each member of the committee. And second, my question is, right now we have 12 people who have applied to be on this committee. What's the procedure? Is there a procedure if other people want to apply? And so we increase that pool.
We don't have any applicants yet.
Oh, I thought.
No, just there'll be a committee chosen of 12 people.
I misunderstood.
Right.
My apologies.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. Anybody else? Lisa Griebel.
And I think I sent Lisa and Denise some questions and feedback, and some of those were addressed, so I appreciate that. One of the concerns I had is that it limited who could make a complaint, specifically to residents, property owners, people that work in our city, and business owners. And when I read through some of the other examples of ethics guidelines, it mentioned just individuals. So with our city being, we attract visitors, we attract future business owners, that's too specific. That's just a comment I had.
Did you want, I can feel that, but I also know that Kendra, we were on that call and we had this discussion and we came up with those points for a reason. But I don't want to let the city attorney address it, and then I know you got to run, so I can address it after that.
That's okay. I would love to stay and be part of this important conversation. So thank you for being patient and acknowledging the time. So in terms of standing, that's in section 2.12065, subsection 5, for those that are following along. And it does define standing as a complainant that holds a current city business license, are currently employed with the city, or are a resident or property owner within the city. The reason I raise that as a possible policy decision to include is because in my experience, there are cities where someone far outside the city makes several complaints, ties up many city resources, and can really backlog the complaint process. And whether or not those complaints have merit is another issue. But using the city's resources in that way has been a problem for some other cities. So it's certainly a policy decision to craft standing as it is in this ordinance, though I do recommend it if there's any concern about the city's resources and making sure that the city is appropriately situated to address those community members, you know, that you are elected to represent.
All right, thank you. Lisa Griebel, did you have another question?
Well, I sent my questions to Lisa and Denise already, so I hope Allison, thank you.
Okay.
And then the other Lisa. And the other just general concern I had was just, again, with one of the whereases, and I sent that to Allison and Denise, that the second whereas in the ordinance stated that in March, and it didn't list like a date in March, it just said March of 2024, that our council had appointed an ad hoc committee to draft a code of ethics. And I went back through the 2 March council meetings, and I couldn't find that in any of the council meetings. It was more an ad hoc committee to address council guidelines. So I just had a question about specifically, we didn't enact it specifically for the code of ethics. It was for council guidelines. So wondering why then it says that, or where that decision was made to focus on the ethics first versus all of the guidelines. Because I believe that this initially came about just because of the council replacement process and that need to go back over that. That was talked about in our council retreat when we initially talked about reforming this committee. So just some clarity on that. That's what I found.
Sarah, you want to answer that?
Sure. So if you're following 2023's council ethics and council guidelines, the council elected to make the document one document, calling it council guidelines. So when in March, when they appointed the ad hoc committee, it was to review the council guidelines that had been 2 documents but become 1. So this whole process has been to undo what is the council guidelines. So they were appointed to review the council guidelines and make that 2 separate documents.
Thank you.
So then my question's back to Allison and Denise, who are on the committee. Was there a reason you focused on this one first versus the other components of it, or for the council replacement process?
For us, because there had been so much turbulence, I'm going to say, with the way other ethics complaints had been handled, and there was no real procedure or anything. We felt that was the most important piece to look at first, as opposed to looking at the guidelines for how we run our meetings.
It was.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Oh, I just wanted to say too, we had just, whether you agree now or not, the ad hoc committee, when we agreed to make it one document, we spend a lot of time going over the council guidelines already. There's not a whole lot of changes to make, so ethics really were the primary reason behind this particular ad hoc committee, because we had just done the guidelines, and we can look at the guidelines again, but it's really how we function as a city and how we set up our meetings, what our agendas look like. That's kind of more of what our guidelines are.
Denise.
As the group looked at both the guidelines and the ethics, really just to reiterate what Lisa said, we felt that the ethics was the most important, and that was really a decision of the entire committee, and that the guidelines will come afterwards. It's not that we are not going to do them, but we felt strongly about separating them and, again, creating both an ordinance and a resolution when it comes to the guidelines.
All right. Anybody else? Okay, I guess we'll bring this back to the next meeting then.
Right.
All right. Thanks, Kendra.
Thank you, Kendra.
Thank you all.
All right, now we'll go back to item number 5, City Administrator's Report.
All right, welcome back, everyone. I've just got a few issues, and now I don't have to speed read them like Evelyn would. I was prepared to do that. So now I'm going to go extra slow just for you, Rich. 9/11 Remembrance. 23 years has passed since the September 11th attacks, a day that profoundly devastated our nation and altered the course of our history. On Wednesday, that's tomorrow, September 11th, in front of the Ocean Shores Fire Department, in partnership with the Veterans of Foreign Wars, Post 8956, we will be hosting a remembrance ceremony, and we will honor the individuals who lost their lives, gave so much, and paid tribute to make those sacrifices in the aftermath of the attacks. So please join us at 9 o'clock tomorrow at the Ocean Shores Fire Department, and we will be meeting at the flag, and we will have a somber remembrance for those tragic lives that were lost on 9/11. Speaking of the fire department, 2 other quick things. A hotel structure fire on Tuesday, September 3rd, and I actually saw this asked on Facebook because people's reservations were canceled and they wanted to know why. The Ocean Shores Fire Department responded to a commercial structure fire at the Bayview Hotel on Ocean Shores Boulevard. The fire was initially reported in a room on the 2nd floor. Crews made entry to find smoke conditions on floors 2 and 3 and floor 1 of the laundry room. All the occupants were evacuated. They were all relocated to another hotel. The fire was located inside the wall of the 1st floor laundry room and extended up 3 floors inside the wall. And as a result of that, the fire crews had to cut through the walls from both the interior or the exterior to control the fire spread. The fire was extremely stubborn, with the 2nd floor structural components being compromised by flames, but the crew remained on the scene for over 4 hours and were finally able to extinguish all of the hot spots. And of course, as luck would have it, OSFD responded with 2 engines and a medic unit, but the Ocean Shores ladder truck was out of service, being for emergency repairs, making this fire a bit more challenging, and you'll see more about the ladder truck later this evening. OSFD would like to thank OSPD, AVERT, District 7, and PUD for their assistance. Ocean Shores Fire Chief Ritter and Assistant Chief Mike Mandela and District Fire Chief 7 were on the scene. The estimated damages are around $400,000 in damages. And then lastly, from the fire department, just a reminder on routes 115 and 109 to drive safe. There have been a plethora of incidences that have cost people's lives, both north of the city and south on 109. And just please drive safe, drive cautiously, and wear your seatbelts. We've had to respond to incidents at Copalis Crossing and at the 12 mile marker 12 on 109, and within a week's period of time. They've just had a host of issues. So please be safe when you're driving outside and take your time. A few issues for the city itself that we're working on. Ocean Shores berm update, anticipation of the winter storms that we anticipate being brought to the city. The city is continuing to move forward with both our temporary emergency berm at the south end and toward a more semi-permanent solution for that structure. To obtain a more permanent berm, the city has now officially contracted with Anchor QEA Anchor QEA is going to facilitate our permitting process with all the state agencies we need to go through. And we are almost engaged in a contract with Mott McDonald, who will be conducting the engineering of that berm. In the meantime, though, the city is going to work to reinforce that infrastructure that we already have in place. The rocks that the city has placed there are to be used on an emergency basis by the city, and we have several sacks that are set there if in case we encounter early high tides this year. Please do not touch those items. Please observe the no trespassing signs, and please, for everyone's safety, do not walk on the berm or make any alterations to it of any kind. In other words, try to stay out of that area as best you possibly can. I don't know how many signs we need to put up to say that, but we've got quite a few. WCIA audit and compact. Happy to let everyone know the City of Ocean Shores has fulfilled our 2004 requirements for our compact with the Washington City's Insurance Authority. Every year, the city has to meet a number of requirements, and we undergo an audit. And that audit is on a different topic every year. And this year, it was on human resources and it regarded our hiring, firing, and retention policies, as well as to looking at our forms for recruiting and our employment onloading practices. We've completed everything we need to do, and so we are qualified at this point to go out and receive one of the 2 insurance carriers the state has for cities for 2025. So thank you to Kristen Jones for all her assistance on that, along with Courtney Beebe in getting all those documents in order for us. An Ocean Shores court update. This I really want to do in public, and I really want the council to know everything about this because this has gone back and forth. So brief history here. At the conclusion of 2023, our longtime judge, Ocean Shores Judge Scott Sage, and our public defender, Doug Batar, announced they would be retiring from the court and leaving the practice of law, and they were assigned to a 1-year extension that's set to expire this year, December 31st at 2024. The Ocean Shores City Council requested that we place a request for qualifications early in 2024 to obtain new court personnel, and the city did that. But as of May of that year, we had not received any applications. Having received no applications at this point, the city reached out to Grays Harbor County in the hopes that we could integrate the city's court into the Grays Harbor County Court. The county, however, just recently informed the city they do not have the financial capacity, the staffing, or even the physical space to incorporate the Ocean Shores Municipal Court into the county's court systems. The only options we were thus afforded were one of 2: disband the Ocean Shores Police Department and the Ocean Shores Municipal Court and directly incorporate ourselves with the Grays Harbor County Sheriff's Department, or put out another updated RFQ, try our luck, and call everyone we knew and hoping we could find a new judge and public defender. After putting out the new RFQ, the city received 3 applications for judge. Unfortunately, only one of those lives in Grays Harbor County, which is a legal jurisdictional prerequisite to be appointed at the Ocean Shores Municipal Court. The city did receive 1 application that qualified, and we are interviewing that person shortly. We are hoping this will be successful. In the meantime, though, our public defender has now expressed interest in staying on. So to that end, it is increasingly likely that the Ocean Shores Municipal Court will remain in Ocean Shores. It will continue to operate with Kim Ward as the Ocean Shores Municipal Court clerk, but we will have some contracts to bring back to council. But just so everyone knows, the county option is completely out. They do not want to do this. They've been approached by other cities as well. They can't afford it. They can't fund it. They can't staff it. And so it looks like we have, this is the only real solution we can come up with. We're hoping that we can get this done. And then lastly, the pedestrian topic for hydrant flushing. Work is being conducted on Pearsall Street to Joaquina Loop on September 10 and 11, and from Joaquina Loop to Hasselo Avenue Southeast on September 24th and 25th. As always, it is common for flushing activities to stir up sediment in the water lines and surrounding work areas. Even if you're not on one of the streets where we're flushing, you can still get sediment. We recommend that you do not use hot water during the hours of 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. on the days above if you live in that district. A map of the work area can be viewed on the city website at osgov.com, or if you have any questions, you can either call or email Ricky Victoriano, and And the number there, 360-589-6329. And that concludes the city administrator report. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Scott. Now we have council liaison reports and council committee reports, and start with Richard.
I have nothing to report.
All right. Rich?
Our finance meeting is Monday the 14th at 4:30.
Tom?
Ditto.
All right. Lisa Scott?
So I have no liaison reports, but I did attend agenda setting and signed warrants.
All right. Thanks. Allison?
I have Finance Committee next week and Public Works.
Denise?
I attended agenda setting and signed warrants.
Thanks. Lisa Griebel?
Just a reminder, the library board meets every other month, but they do want people to know that to stop by and welcome their new staff members, Hannah and David. And now that school's back in session, our Michelle has resumed her weekly outreach to the middle school and the high school. And please stop by and enjoy a fabulous art exhibit by Ed Schroll.
All right. Thanks. So, mayor's report. I want to let everybody know the auditor has finished our audit, and they will be conducting an exit interview to go over the audit. It will be this Thursday, 3 p.m. at the library, and it is open to the public. Finance Committee meeting has moved to Monday the 16th at 4:30 at the library. It will not be on the 17th as originally scheduled, so make a note of that. We will be discussing utility rates, service fees, the LTAC figures, and it's also open to the public. Ocean Shores sign at our entrance to the city is scheduled to be installed on Friday, so we'll be glad to see that completed. Wanted to mention I went with Chief Ritter to the VFW, and they presented the fire department with a memorial bell. And the fire department has had to borrow a bell from other fire departments for special events in the past. The bell has been a long-honored fire service tradition, so this is really special that they have their own bell now. And I just want to thank the VFW for the kind gift that they gave to our fire department. It was a nice presentation there at the VFW Hall. And that's it for my report. So we have the consent agenda.
Like to make a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. We have no old business. We're going back to new business here. And we'll start with item number 9. We got ratification of the proclamation of the mayor of the city of Ocean Shores, Washington, declaring a citywide emergency to implement measures to maintain the Ocean Shores Fire Department ladder truck, making equipment operational, ensuring public safety. And that'll be presented by Chief Brian Ritter and Assistant Chief Mike Mandela. And I can say this is a very important thing to have happen, as we had a multi-story fire at one of our hotels here a week ago.
So we have an issue with our ladder truck. It's 18 years old. We discovered when we were doing our weekly checks, crews put it up, and there was a catastrophic malfunction of the hydraulic system. In order to repair this, the company that we selected has to take the whole ladder truck apparatus, the ladder portion, off of the ladder truck and get down to the guts of the mid-mount and fix it. And the estimate came out at $50,000. This is obviously an unbudgeted item, but this does affect the safety of our public. I do get the question, well, why do we even need a ladder truck? Well, the fire at Bayview is one reason. We also have a lot of tall structures that we need to get up to, and it also carries all of our ground ladders and specialized equipment. So I think this is critical, and I hope that the council sees the importance of us having a operational ladder truck. I'm going to turn it over to Chief Mandela. He did a lot of the footwork on the estimates, and we can explain to you why we went with the company that we went with and the costs associated with getting it fixed.
Right, so we got 3 estimates from 3 local meaning a footprint that would include Portland. So if you look at that on a map, within that entire 100 and some odd mile radius, there's only 3 vendors. We got 3 bids, or estimates actually, not bids. We went with the middle estimate. The low estimate is a company that had done prior work on our truck and caused me to lose confidence in using them again. I'll leave it at that. The high bid was, or the high estimate was high. The mid bid is the perfect bid in my opinion, because the part that we need, excuse me, is once the ladder comes off, which has to be lifted off with heavy duty lift, almost like a crane. And then underneath that is probably a 8-foot diameter solid steel turntable driven from underneath with a set of gears and pistons, hydraulically driven. That part has failed. That part needs to be machined, manufactured. It's made to order, custom made to order. They can't start to make it until they see the part. Any other vendor within that large radius would have to go through this particular vendor, True North, because they're the only ones that can make that part. And so it made sense to go and recommend that we go with that middle price estimate.
All right. We have any public comment? Yes, Jan.
Thank you for the presentation. I certainly hope that the citizens of Ocean Shores will support this action by the city council. We need this fire truck, and I'm sure these gentlemen have done the research necessary, and I'm certainly hoping that the council will approve this expenditure, although unplanned for. We do need this for our future here. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Any other public comment? All right, council. Have any comments or questions? Lisa Griebel.
I just want to thank you for the time you put into for the bids and to look at that. And it is really imperative. It's not just the hotels. There are several large condominiums. I was at a condominium where you had to use the truck to rescue, I think it was a window washer on the 5th floor on a lift, and the lift failed. And he was looking at a 24-hour turnaround before his company could get out and fix the lift and get him down. And it would have been a cold, windy night out on that lift if you guys hadn't come out and gotten him down. So it's really important.
Yes, Lisa Scott.
Yeah, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve the proclamation of the mayor of the city of Ocean Shores, Washington, declaring a citywide emergency to implement measures to maintain the Ocean Shores Fire Department ladder truck, making the equipment operational and ensuring public safety.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, council.
All right, next we have a request of the City Council of the City of Ocean Shores, Washington, to award the golf course force main replacement project to Russ Construction. And that'll be presented by our project manager, Becky Leach.
Good evening, council, mayor, and citizens who are still remaining. Thank you. So the golf course bridge has a sewer force main that runs underneath of it that is 31 years old, iron ductile piping that is disintegrating. And the plan is to replace it with an HDE pipe that will last longer than our current PVC wrapped iron pipe, because the HDP won't corrode or rust. This was the first time that we've received this many bids since I've been working for the city. We received 8 bids, which was awesome. The estimate for the project was $214,000, which was an estimate from Gray and Osborne, who wrote the plans for the project, and it was budgeted for $250,000. Low bid came in from Russ Construction for $119,791.80. So this is a really good deal for this project. And I guess with that, I'll open it up to public comment.
Any public comment? All right. Any comment from questions? Yes, Lisa Scott.
Did you have any hiccups or heartburn with the low bid?
No hiccups or heartburn with the low bid. We spoke to the contractor when we took the bids in. All contractors were there that day, and we spoke to them about it and feel good about it. One of the reasons I think that the pricing is so low is we haven't worked with Russ Construction before, and quite often when a new contractor wants to start working with the city, you'll get a pretty good price. So,
Yeah, I noticed some of the fluctuations, so that's why I was just making sure.
Yeah.
All right. Any other? Yes, Rich.
Just want to make sure everybody knows this is not an actual golf course expenditure. It's just an item attached to a bridge on the golf course.
That is correct. Yeah, and I was actually waiting for you to ask, how are we going to accommodate the golfers during this construction process? So, means and
How are we
methods.
going to address the golf?
We will be doing the work from the top of the bridge. The boards will be lifted up. We won't be doing it from the water. We're going to do it during the extra super rainy season when the goal is that nobody will be golfing. And we also could potentially be doing it at night, but I'll be working with the golf course to determine when the work is going to get done.
A question: while you are, it sounds like, removing all the boards, are we in a position to make sure that we're not going to have to replace those soon? And maybe that needs to be addressed as well. I'm not sure about how good a shape they are all in.
We were out there a couple different times looking at this project, walking and seeing where the pipe was from the top, and the boards seem to all be in good shape.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, Lisa.
I'd just like to go ahead and make a motion to approve for the City Council of the City of Ocean Shores to award the golf course sewer force main work to Russ Construction.
Second.
Got a second? Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. All right, next up, we have a request of the City Council of the City of Ocean Shores, Washington, to award the water tank rehabilitation project to DN Tanks, and that's presented again by Becky Leach.
So the City of Ocean Shores has 4 water tanks. One is the 3 million gallon water tank, and then we have 3 that are 1 million gallon water tanks. The 1 million gallon water tanks were built back in 1970 and haven't had any maintenance on them to date. 2 of them have exposed rebar and concrete spalling issues that need to be maintained. The downspouts need to be replaced. Some of them need to be put back on because they're no longer there. The dome roofs need to have repairs, and new dome vents and exterior ladders are also being recommended. During this work, the tank will be cleaned on the exterior, and architectural coatings will be applied to protect the concrete on the exterior of the tanks. The exterior ladders and dome vents, they were bid as an option, but it is highly recommended because both original installation from 1970, the ladders are pretty severely deteriorated and rusted. I wouldn't climb up one. The vents on the roof, also bid as the other option. They're functioning, but the cost that it would be when they do stop functioning or get close to not functioning, to have somebody mobilize and go up on the roof again is going to be a lot more expensive. So also recommending that that gets done at the same time. The project was put out to bid twice because the first time we bid it, we only got 1 bid returned from DN Tanks, and coincidentally, DN Tanks also built the tanks back in 1970 and 1969. The apparent low bid during the second bid process was thrown out and not accepted because they didn't turn in all of the proper documentation, submitting a qualified bid package that their bid package didn't show that they were qualified to perform the work on the pre-stressed concrete tanks. The pre-stressed concrete tanks, if you can picture the circular reservoirs that these are built not just with the exposed rebar that we can see, but there's also thinner printed a picture. There's pre-stressed wires that go through. There's about 4 or 5 different layers of the wall of this tank as it curves around. And because of the pre-stressing of these pre-stressed wires makes it a pretty niche project. And when we put the bids out, we asked for 10 previous projects in the last 5 years where these companies had done the same pre-stress type concrete tanks, and only DN Tanks was the one that turned that in. So that's why the low bid was thrown out. So the DN Tanks bid is $621,106.30. The budget is $400,000. So this project is $221,106.30 over budget, and a budget modification will be needed. Public comment?
Yeah, any public comment? All right. Council. Rich.
Okay, help me with that explanation as to why the low bid was thrown out. You had a par of, we wanted someone that had done this work blank number of times previously.
Right, and the low bid that was thrown out didn't send any pre-stressed concrete tank work.
Okay, so it wasn't as though you wanted 8 and they came in at 7.
Correct.
They didn't come in with any.
Correct.
All right. Yes, Lisa.
Where are we anticipating the additional $200,000 plus?
I apologize because I forgot to look what the line item bars code is, but this is budgeted to come out of 420. And Sarah, can you help me with that?
No, 420 is where the 400,000 sits.
Right.
Where we're taking the 200 as the water capital replacement fund, and 320, and that currently has a little over 2 million in it. So more than enough to compensate.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, Allison.
Well, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve a request of the City Council of the City of Ocean Shores to award the water tanks rehabilitation work to DN Tanks.
Second.
Oh, yeah. We have a second. Any other comments? Yeah, one more question. Yeah, go ahead, Rich.
And to be specific, how many tanks are we actually refurbishing for this 621?
2.
2 of the 4.
All right. There's no other questions. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Becky. We don't have any discussions, no executive session. Agenda review will be September 12th via Zoom, 9 a.m. And we have council members Scott, Griebel, and Klein for that. So next up is good of the order. I'll start at the other end. Lisa.
I think I was on the other end the last meeting, so I get to start. I just want to say thank you to our first responders for all, because of just the recent emergency events that we've had involving the safety of visitors and our own community members. So thank you for that. And since we, in our council guidelines, are able to use the good of the order for suggestions for topics, I'm hopeful that we are moving forward the formation of the Public Safety Committee. And I know that we've been talking about that, and that's being done. And then also I know we have received some correspondence about hotel standards, and then we heard a public comment tonight as well, as if that's something that's being discussed. Thank you.
All right, Denise.
I also wanted to shout out to our fire department and to Brian in particular. Scott mentioned some of the details of the Bayview fire, and I think it's important to understand that it's not just a matter of putting a hose on a fire to get it out. So I think it shows the technical expertise that we have in town. I also want to thank you for the 9/11 remembrance. On Friday, I will actually be visiting with a friend who was through 9/11 in New York, and it was a pretty horrific experience for everyone involved.
Right, thanks. Allison.
Yeah, thank you to our first responders. And then I would really like to thank the members of the ad hoc committee who worked so hard on these guidelines and the ethics ordinance.
Right, Lisa Scott.
Okay, ditto everybody else, and I really thank you to our citizens, because without you volunteering and helping, we'd lost. But I also wanted to give a shout out to our staff. Sarah, all the work that you've done to get the ad hoc committee everything it needed, and what you give to us and support in your staff as well, because I know that you keep us honest up here. And then a shout out to Becky. She's been a phenomenal asset to Ocean Shores and everything she's done. And the fact that we've got as many bids as we've been getting on projects is a testament to her dedication. So I just want to say thank you.
Right, thanks. Tom.
I know. I want to thank everybody that has been involved in getting our council all the help they get from you guys on both the animals, you two working, and you need a lot more money than you get. But a shout out to 9/11. I can remember where I was when I heard it, and okay. I was waiting to retire back when I got a call from that it happened, and shocked me. So a lot of prayers for all those people that suffered and their families that still remember them.
All right, thanks. Rich.
I'll start with the LTAC applications are available, and the whole month of September they'll be collected by Sarah. So please don't forget to fill out the LTAC applications, and thank you for the new formats. Because of Becky's presentation tonight, it reminds me about government and running for council, being on council now for, was it 28 years or 3 years? Same thing. But how slow government works and how pleasing it is to actually see these major projects finally be addressed. We're speaking of water towers literally years ago, eaves years ago. We can go on and on. Oyhut Ditch years ago. So anyway, thank you so much for getting us through it. And you're right, having Becky be able to spearhead these projects is really rewarding, because we've still got a lot of work to do for our citizens. So thanks.
All right, thanks, Rich. Richard.
So I also want to thank our public safety department, the fire and the police department. What an amazing job they always do. And if we put up what I want to call it, all of the offices, all of the personnel, and threw a dart at that, we would land on somebody who deserves special recognition. We just have amazing city staff. We at council, we all at a time see the work that Sarah and her partner is doing. We see the work that Becky is doing, but they're the ones that are visible. But we've also got just superstars throughout our city employee staff. So I'm just grateful, both as a council member and as a citizen, that we have such dedicated staff in public safety.
All right, thanks. I wanted to address a couple things. Lisa Griebel, Richard and I are working on an ordinance for the hotels. So just so you know that that's being looked at. And the people that asked about the striping, they're gone now, but this month we will have reflected striping on 3 of our major roads from north end to the south end. So we're waiting for that to get done. But anyway, that's all I got to say. Does somebody want to adjourn? All right, so be it.